It's good to have you. Are we going to see an M&A comeback?
Great to be with you. Yeah, I think we're at one of these turning points where M&A has bottomed out, but we need to be clear about what that means. What that means is there definitely is an increase in overall activity and discussions. It then takes a little bit of time for that to manifest itself in new announcements, and that's what the Morgan Stanley report was suggesting may occur in the fourth quarter. But it's also really important to remember that in terms of completions, that is deals that are actually closing, that really reflects what was happening, 9 months ago or a year ago. And we are seeing, the deals take longer to close, mostly for regulatory reasons.
I was just going to say, what is leading to the thaw? Is it the fact that the Fed is close to the end of the hiking cycle? Is it the fact that Microsoft and Activision were successful in challenging the FTC, which could open a wave of, I guess, deal making?
Yeah, I think it's a push and pull of several factors. You've got the underlying drivers of M&A activity, technology, the energy transition, life sciences revolution, reshoring, and the disentanglement with China in the global economy. All of those are drivers towards M&A activity. And then you've had three headwinds: pricing, which has largely been fading recently, financing, which is thawing, and then regulatory. And on regulatory, things still are taking longer to close. But to your point, I also think it is significant that the FTC backed off of, not only lost the Microsoft Activision case, but just as importantly, then backed off of the Amgen Horizon case, providing perhaps a little bit of clarity that on vertical deals, at least, there is a pathway forward to completion. I think what you're seeing in boardrooms and C-suites is an expanded willingness to consider those kinds of deals, along with others, in a perhaps somewhat clearer regulatory environment.
I was going to say, Peter, do you see M&A developing any kind of vacuum ahead of the election? Or in other words, do they coil their springs in the hopes of a change to an administration that's a little more permissive?
No, I think you are starting to see, again, a turning point. And there's been lots of discussions about green shoots. I think it's easy to see green shoots a little prematurely. But the pace of activity is definitely picking up. And the only thing that everyone needs to remember is, again, it then takes time for deals to be announced after initial discussions begin, and then another period of time to close. So I don't really see the election as a big impediment right now. But if you're looking at when will deals actually be completed, there's just a natural lag in the process that takes time. And even if the regulators are being a bit clearer at the margin about what they will challenge or what they won't challenge, and the courts are being a bit clearer about even challenge deals, what is permissible and what's not, that still takes a lot of time.
What do you think about FTC Chair Lina Khan's strategy here? I know you spoke with her at the Economic Club of New York. Now that you're on the deal-making side, it seems like there's news every day. I've heard Amazon today report that they're going to get a suit from the FTC. What do you think she's trying to do?
Well, she made clear at the Economic Club of New York what she's not. She doesn't believe that every transaction, violates the statutes. I think there is a lot of ambiguity about whether the FTC is reinterpreting existing statutes, and I think that's what's leading to some of the losses in court. And so the result of that is what you're seeing again in C-suites and boardrooms is an expanded willingness to say, well, look, the FTC may or may not, or the Department of Justice may or may not object to this, but if the courts are providing clarity, perhaps we can proceed regardless. We have to build in additional time for a trial and the additional cost of that. But if the odds of winning are high enough, deals will proceed anyway. And in addition to that, again, I think it is noteworthy that the FTC backed off of the Amgen Horizon case, suggesting perhaps, again, I don't want to get too excited about it, but perhaps there will be greater clarity about which transactions will be challenged and which ones will not.